very beginning. Yeah. So welcome. This is part 2 of our Ultimate Communication Toolkit. Last week, part 1 was on effective communication. Do you guys remember effective communication?
Yeah, we did a really fun activity. That was very fun but hard.
Yeah. So we were able to define what effective communication meant. We had our trusty communication majors with us to give us what I feel like was very textbook. It was definitely like what we asked for, and it was definitely good background information, but I also feel like it was like, could have been more authentic or more honest. So these next 2 parts, I want us to like really dive into like past the technical terms, and get into and relationship related, because as you know, and as we've talked about for years and years and years, communicating is hard. I think in our last video we talked about it not being modeled for us, especially in relationships. So specifically to partnerships and even like friends, but ideally like partnerships, just because I think we can gloss over how to talk to a boss or email. There's different methods that aren't as tricky, but I think when our feelings get involved with partners and friends, our communication skills aren't the greatest.
They're non-existent.
Yeah, and I'm no judgment, because this is and I think it's funny, like I say, with the technical terms, we could all define effective communication. I could define self-worth. That doesn't mean I have high self-worth 100% of the time, and that's what I think. All of this is practice. Life is a practice, and if we don't practice things, we're not going to get better. So today, it's part 2, Ultimate Communication Toolkit. We're talking about effectively communicating in relationships. Are you guys nervous?
Yeah.
Are you for real?
I'm gonna get called out. Yeah. I'll be like, I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, so I do. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think I want us to really stay on track. Like if it's too easy or too it's hard for me to communicate to when my sister takes my shit. We're not going there. We want the really challenging things. Because the reality is we're not taught to do this, and I think we talked about this in another video, that TV shows, movies, our families, friends, schools, nobody teaches us how to really convey our feelings all the time, and to really say what we want, say what we mean, to really be heard, and then not to feel guilty or shameful or any of these other emotions that come up if we feel uncomfortable. So, are you ready to do this?
Yeah.
I think the best way, because I want us to be authentic, and I don't want us to talk for days, even though I would love to talk for days, I'm going to pull information from you people. So we have cards in front of you, you have markers, and I want you to think about challenges you may have had, or maybe your friends have had, or maybe it's not even challenges, it's just things that confuse you as it relates to relationships. So quick examples might be, you're afraid to tell somebody you like them because they might not like you back. You might be in a relationship and it's moving quicker than you want it to move. You get ghosted. So there's no shame. This can be, your friends may have experienced this.
Yeah.
And so
asking for a friend.
Yes. So we'll give you a couple minutes. We have Sam who's behind the camera today, and we will have her joining us as well. So Sam, you're gonna rate at least 3. If you guys have more examples, shoot. But be honest, be authentic, keep our audience in mind, because we want to really overcome some of these hiccups in communicating. Was that clear?
Yeah.
Did I communicate effectively? Does everybody understand what we're doing?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to give us a couple minutes, take 2 or 3 minutes. have cards. There's a little confusion. I just want to make sure the audience is clear on what we were doing. That we're giving very specific examples of when, or circumstances, examples that it's hard to communicate to partners or friends. You know, I had to call Itzel out because she just wrote boundaries. Boundaries is super broad.
Why are you calling me out?
I know, sorry. So we wanted her to give us more specifics.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sam, Itzel, and Destiny. I'm going to give them a shuffle, and then I'm going to deal them. I'm going to deal them out, and we will read them.
And we will give our thumbs up, middle, or down if we've been there.
Yes. Okay. Yes. I forgot about that. And then we will, I feel like I'm like poker game or something. We will take turns reading them. Yes, if we've experienced it, a thumbs up. If we didn't experience, we can do a thumbs down. If we might have, we do sideways. And then to whoever wasn't reading it, we'll like give suggestions on how to communicate. What would effective communication look like in that situation? And we're going to look at it two ways. Like, we probably know what the right answer is. Like, yes, this is what you should say, but like, let's think about what the challenges are, why we don't say what we should say. Okay? Okay. Who wants to read first?
You.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is related to social life. So if we're going out with friends to parties and clubs, how do we communicate what behavior is accepted and not accepted? Okay.
Thumbs up because I've been there.
What would be an example of going out with friends, parties and clubs, like talking to another?
I immediately thought of like dancing with someone, like twerking, like because that's what's popping y'all.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so how would I have that conversation with my partner if I didn't want them
like
twerking?
Honestly, I feel like this goes into like jealousy and all that stuff, and like my initial response is to prevent that. So I would like just tell my partner like, hey, I'm gonna go out like this day, like at least not the day of, like that's just bad. Like, you know, that might like cause problems if you guys don't resolve the conversation. So I like to do like a couple days in advance and be like, hey, I'm gonna go out. We might be dancing, we might be twerking, like, you know, but like I know what I'm comfortable with. I would be comfortable just with like people I know, not strangers. Like that's a no-no. Like I don't want some random drunk all up in me. Yeah. Like no.
So you're coming from the perspective, you would give your partner a heads up that you're going to be doing this behavior. And if they said, I don't want you doing that, what happens?
Ooh. I don't know. I feel like I would be like this, like, ooh, like what? Because I've never heard like my partner try to like tell me like that's not acceptable, because I think I set pretty normal standard rules for myself. I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like grind up on these people. Like no, like if anything, just like me and my best friend, my girl best friend, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's what I would say.
Yeah. Okay, so you would communicate.
But if my partner was like, I don't like your best friend, you know, who knows? I'd be like, oh, okay, like what's the problem? Like what don't you like about her? And then like I'd be like, okay, you know, thanks for telling me, but like she's my best friend. At the end of the day, you know, I'm still gonna talk to her.
Okay, yeah, so that's taking it to a different, that's a whole other conversation. So this specifically, going out with friends to parties and clubs, and like I interpreted this as you not wanting your partner to be like, you know, all grinding up on somebody. So, and you mentioned jealousy. Is that how you interpret it? Well,
yeah, well, I mean, that kind of, like, I put these two kind of hand in hand. Like, for me, I thought about it, like, yeah, that too. But then, I mean, when I go out, like, there's drinking involved and stuff. So, like, I mean, I'm pretty good at, like, having self-awareness still while I'm drinking. But it's, like, that's also a thing, like, oh, like, don't get too drunk or something, you know, because then you're going to come home and then da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
So, that too. And then the grinding part, like, I'm not big on, like, dancing, like, you know, so that didn't really faze me. But I knew, like, that would probably come up in other people, because I don't go out clubbing like that, but I know people who do, and they're in a relationship.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder, like, does your boyfriend know that you're like
how do they not get in fights?
Yeah, because I mean, let's say like their boyfriend doesn't like to go out, okay.
Yeah.
But then it's like, is that correct, or like is it because it doesn't mean anything that you could just be dancing on whoever? You want? Like, I don't know, because again, I've never done that, so.
Yeah, and that's a great point though too. That like, I don't think we have to worry about what other people are doing. You know, like it has to be. You mentioned about feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
So one, if somebody's coming up and like dancing on me and I don't want to do that, I have to be comfortable enough to say stop, or like I know that's hard for us. So either like walk away or be like, oh hey, I'm gonna get a drink, or or do something to make it stop. Yeah, and like fun stuff. I'm not talking about crossing the lines like this like toxic stuff. But and then also, you know, if you and your partner like having this conversation of saying like, hey, I get jealous. I get jealous when you're paying attention to somebody else on the dance floor. You know, right or wrong, like it just doesn't make me feel good. Can we talk about it? That conversation's hard to have because then we have to be vulnerable and we have to like say we're jealous, you know, and this is like expressing feelings. And I think what makes this hard is a lot of times we want to just kind of like react to the situation. Be like, what the fuck? Why are you out there dancing with somebody? You know, instead of just like really thinking about like why am I upset? And it's really comes down to my insecurities, because then I feel like, oh, they like that person better, or like this is me speaking just from my perspective. I witnessed this. That all my insecurities would come up, like, oh, and then I would be judged like, oh, she's pretty, or she's, you know, and comparing, and like it's not her fault. Like the problem's me. Like I need to be able to be like, yo, that doesn't feel good. Can we not do that? Can we agree that we're both gonna just dance with each other?
Yeah.
You know, and then whatever the conversation can change. But it's hard. It's all like being vulnerable, I think, is hard. Okay. Who wants to go next?
I go next. So this one says PDA. Not liking it, either not in public or that one partner likes PDA and the other doesn't.
Oh, I forgot we were doing that. Yeah. I don't know if I really experienced that.
Why not? Like, you don't care?
I never like had it where I was not in agreement. Like where it was like somebody wanted to like all over me and I was like, no, you know, like it was just, it never came up in a relationship, I guess, to have to talk about it. And I never had to be like, I want to hold your hand, and they didn't want to hold mine, you know, or something like that. So.
I feel like for me, this person, like, they just wanted too much, and it's like, okay, I feel like there's a time and place for everything. And like, if I'm out in public, like, I don't need you, like, just hold up. Like, let me just enjoy my time out, you know? That's like the only thing that I can think of. Where in that case, like, I was like, yeah, like, it's not that I didn't like it, it's just like, why are you doing it when we're like out with people?
Yeah. Did you tell the person?
Oh yeah.
Oh. Yeah. How, okay. What did you say? Do you remember?
I was like, not right now.
Okay, well that was a nice way to say it,
you know, because I don't like to be mean about it.
Yeah.
Because like,
what's
like
your partner?
Yeah. It's just like, oh, like let's just do this later, like move like a hand or like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably handling it effectively and communicating, and I think, like, again, I think it's the I statements, because it doesn't, like, clearly they didn't agree that there was a time and a place, or they had a different opinion, and I don't know if it's necessary to defend or be like, oh my God, why are you doing that? We're in the park. Like, I don't think we should, you know, like, I don't think that's part of the conversation.
Yeah.
I think it can just be like, hey, like, I'm not really comfortable, you know, I like to keep this private or whatever. Can we do this later?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But I guess, what would it look like if you wanted to have more affection in public and you weren't getting it from your partner?
I feel like this is probably bad because so I'm just gonna put it out here. Like, I'm super bad at communicating with my partner.
Okay.
Like, I'm just gonna put it out there.
Guilty.
Yeah, because I find myself like I'll try and use I statements, but I'll use other people as like a reference, you know? I'm like, oh, like why don't, like we could be like that, or like why don't you hold my hand like they're holding, you know? Instead of saying like I want you to hold my hand, because that would be a lot easier, so they know that I want that. So
I mean, that's interesting that you noticed that, because this is a practice, right? Like at least you're seeing it, and now it's like, okay, that's probably not effective, because she's gonna be like, her response might be like, well, we're not fucking them. Why don't you date that person then if you want them to do that? Yeah. So that's not really helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I think like I just keep going back to, you know, we know what the right answer is supposed to be, and practicing it is important, and knowing that that if we don't practice it, we're never gonna get better. And like, and I always like, these things are like we don't grow out of it. You know, it's not like you wake up and you're 35 and it's like, oh, look at this, all these skills that I have. Like I can communicate perfectly. No, like we have to try now so that you're like that, because all these situations, my friends are still doing it, you know, or just they haven't learned effective communication. So it's hard. So all of this, I know it's hard, and I can say exactly what is effective and appropriate, but do I do it? Probably not. Are you up on the question, or is it?
Yeah. Advice, knowing if your partner wants advice, whether that's like sugarcoating or like hard truth.
So this was my example. I feel like I'm super blunt out of like all the people I know, and sometimes I don't want to hurt my partner by being super blunt. So I just ask him like, what version do you want? Like, do you want sugar-coated or like blunt? But I did this with my friends too, because like I've noticed them like I say some shit and they're like, dude, what the fuck was that? Like I didn't want to hear that. I'm like, oh well, then nobody's gonna tell you. Like that's how I am. So I'm just like, I've had to realize like I need to step back. Like not everybody's like me, and sometimes they just need a like reassurance, like which person they want. And like I've had to do this for myself too. Like, you know. So I think when it comes to advice, like there's also like, hey, do you need my advice, or like you got this? Like you don't need advice from me, and you know where you're going from your own journey now, you know?
Yeah, that's where I'm at, like, because I would always have all the answers, and you should do this, and you know, people come with me with whatever circumstances. But now it's more pausing and be like, okay, I hear you. That sounds like it really sucks. Do you want to know what I would do, or are you just like venting right now? And it saves so much, because they're like, no, I just need to vent. Like I'm fine. I just need to say it. Or they're like, yeah, like what would you do? And if they say that, they are more willing. Then you don't have to sugarcoat it, because you've already asked that. Like, so you can be honest. And so I don't know. I do feel like that's like, even just asking first, do you want my suggestion? And then if they're like, no, not at all.
That's how I am.
Like, okay,
no,
cool.
I'm already hard on myself. I know what I want.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I need to think about that. But there's two.
Yeah, so that's good, because then that's letting them be heard. You're clarifying, you know, all these things that we talked about with effective communication in the last video. So like you ask clarifying questions. What I'm hearing is this. Would you, you know, like feedback? They get to respond. So it's like two people in the conversation instead of me just imposing my one-sided conversation. Okay, that one's probably like one of the easier ones of these scenarios, I would think. It's me? Communicating insecurities of the relationship or of the person's insecurities themselves. So, I'm interpreting that like a jealousy thing. Sam, we might need you to clarify.
I'm confused.
Is it telling somebody insecure? Oh, okay. So like insecurities of the relationship. So like I might not know where the relationship's going, or I want more and I don't know if they do. Yeah, that one's hard.
Yeah, that one's really hard.
Because that one's the one that we go to my friends like, I don't know, like I just like really like him, and he calls all the time, and we try to interpret and like just like make these assumptions.
But I feel like, okay, because like you called me out, but it's like we know what to say, and we know how we feel, but for some odd reason, like, it just can't, like,
I know.
come out.
Yeah, because like why? Like the reality is, all we need to say is, I like you. I like the direction this relationship is going. We've been seeing each other for a while. Like, can we be exclusive? Or, you know, whatever, I don't know what the language is. But it's like, that seems like such the obvious, easy thing to say. But I guess it's that second part of our own insecurities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, well, what if they don't?
Rejection.
Yeah.
I think is like the biggest
Yeah.
thing.
But the reality is that's a positive for us. Because then we're not wasting our time with somebody that doesn't want the same things we want.
I know, but like, we should see it in that way.
But we just don't.
Yeah, we
But
don't.
we
have
like,
it.
we're
We
like
like-
blind or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see the red flags. Red is my favorite color.
Yeah, and then we get mad. I know, like that. This one is really, I find from my experience that like I'll deflect and I find myself like waiting for the other person to make the move or whatever. So it's like, oh, like, you know, we talk every day, like, and I'll evaluate what's going on in the relationship and tell my friends, like, oh yeah, like we talk every day. It's so weird. We just hung out. Like, we're really getting it, but like he won't take it to the next level. But it's like, I could say that, you know? And so this one it's really hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm at the stage of adulthood yet.
Yeah.
To do that. But when I do, I feel like that would be the most empowering thing to do. Because it's like you're owning your feelings. You're saying exactly what you want and what you expect. You're doing it without like having shame or you know, anything. Because it's kind of like, well, what you see is what you get. This is what I want. If you don't want the same thing, peace, like, I'm going to find somebody that does. And like, so like, it has to be super empowering if you can get to that point of loving yourself, I guess, is really what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I can put that one here. Think about it a little bit more.
Okay, this next one says communications that need for reassurance in the relationship.
Communications that need for reassurance. Like feelings wise? How do you interpret it? So if
I feel like maybe when you're going out with someone and they're always like, do you like me? Or like something like that. That's like the first thing that came into my mind. But I feel like I only say that like to be playing around. Like I never like, I feel like I don't need reassurance that like my partner loves me.
Okay, so you haven't experienced it.
No, but I know friends that are like, they constantly have to ask their partner, do you like me?
Why do you think they do that? Do you know?
I feel like it's because they're not receiving what they need from that relationship. It goes back to like the PDA in this example that I'm thinking of. Like they felt like they needed reassurance by physical touch, and they were just not getting it, and then they were both doubting themselves.
Yeah, that makes sense. The language of love isn't matching, and if it's like, if I want hugs, or if I want attention, or if I want compliments, and I'm not getting this, then it's always going to be doubt.
You just have to like be open, you know.
Yeah.
Like this came back to like the one person liking it, the one other person not liking it.
Yeah.
You just have to like be open and maybe come to like a compromise, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that one too. It's scary to do because you're saying what you need.
Yeah, it's like,
but
it's like nitty gritty, man.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's really like you're already dating, so to like it feels like I'm not saying I could do this easy either, but I'm just saying, like trying to think in my head like the logic of it is like we're dating, and if I'm like, you know, I would really like if you hugged me more, you know, and then like I think we always think like, oh my god, they're gonna think I'm stupid, or they're gonna think I'm weird, or they're gonna, but it's like, what if they're like, oh, okay, I'll hug you more. You know, like we don't think that it's going to be this smooth. At least I don't. I always think it's going to be something dramatic, and I'm going to get a response that's like terrible, you know, and I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, because like just you using that example, being really comfortable with your partner, because I think in the beginning I did want stuff, but I think it also goes back to the other one that we were talking about, communicating insecurities and stuff. And so I didn't want to, again, because of the whole rejection thing and da da da. But then when I got comfortable enough, I was like, okay, no, like, yeah, I want more of this. And then I felt comfortable enough that like they were gonna just be like, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
So you got more confidence.
transition. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, with practice. Because when you practice, you're like, oh shoot, that wasn't that scary.
Yeah.
I wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to leave these two out. These are hard. What do you got?
Relationship moving too slow. Wanting to communicate that you want it to speed it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that one's hard too.
I think.
You've experienced it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
With my hubby, we were going out on dates and stuff, and then I was just like, when is he gonna ask me out? But I was too scared to freaking ask him out. And then when he finally did, I was like, fucking finally, like, what the fuck? So yes, I have experienced this.
But you kept waiting for
But
him.
I kept waiting, and
Yeah.
I like at one point I was like starting to think like, okay, I need to do this myself, like.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, what if he doesn't like me, or like maybe I'm reading the signals wrong, and then like it finally happened, and I was like, I could have just done that, you know?
Yeah. And like, because why, like, the partner's just as scared as we are.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we think like, oh, why don't they do it already? Why don't they ask me? It's like, well, same reason that we're not.
Well, I feel like for her, it's also like the gender stereotype.
Yeah.
Like the guy has to ask the girl out.
Like,
So it's like
that's something I grew up with, like
Yeah.
in movies and TVs, and I was just like, okay, I'm waiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. I know I do that too. Like, I still, as much as I want to be, feminist and everybody's equal, but I still have certain like gender norms. That's like, open the door for me, or like, buy me flowers, like just things like that. And yeah, ask me out, or like the one to do, like, take the initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is our hard pile.
Yeah.
And I mean, because and it always comes down to just saying what we freaking want. Like in that example you gave, like, hey, we've been dating, like, I like you, like, where are we at? Can we move forward? Mm-hmm. And it's just, I don't know why. I mean, I do know why. I wish I could get past the insecurities, I guess, or the fear of whatever is happening.
The thing that I'm thinking about is like, because right now we're just talking about like, I don't know how like surface level we're talking about, but like, if you've been together for someone like, let's say 5 or 6 years, or 10 years, let's say 10 years, you're like, so when are you gonna pop the question?
Oh, that's what I was thinking about too.
Like, I think that one's even harder because it's like, it's marriage, and it's not like, oh, we're gonna move up in a, it's like, this is like gonna be initial,
Yeah, that one is tricky because, and I guess it's the fear's just at a whole nother level. Because it's like, if you're just dating and you want to move forward, and then you bring it up and your partner's like, I'm not feeling the same way, it's quicker. But then, like, if you're together 5, 6 years and you're just like, hey, I'm ready to take it to the next level, and they're still not ready, then you have to decide, like, is this what I'm looking for? Are they ever going to be ready? When are they going to be ready? And it does. And so it's that fear of like just holding on to something that might not be right for us, I guess.
Yeah.
I know. It would be. All
That's
of
what
these
I
are
was
scary.
thinking about too. I was like, that's fake rejection, like that we're scared of.
But but if we reframe it, like it's not really rejection. It's just we're not in the same page. We're not a match. We're not. But it's like we're the way our culture. It's like, oh, you were rejected. Oh, they didn't like me. I'll reject. And it's like, well, no, like we just aren't a match.
Yeah.
We aren't a match.
Like you just stop spilling,
Yeah. But it would, because and then it's like, oh my God, I just wasted all this time without, and like we kind of go into a pity party where it's like, find the good news is that like you're not wasting any more time, or you're not ending up in divorce, or you're not like gonna have a bigger heartbreak, But again, like we just want to, and like what if they're like, yeah, you know what, I'm ready, like we always just go to like the negative, and it's like, oh, I'm scared what they're gonna say, so I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. I don't know. These things, I'm scared.
It's your turn.
My turn? Okay. Communicating boundaries with people from boyfriend's past. They can't talk to their exes as friends. Yeah. Yeah, I totally have this. You never experienced that?
No.
Okay.
But I've had friends who have, and it goes back to like the social media thing. Because, like, even though, like, you're not with them, like, it's your ex, but then they'll still be jealous. Oh, you follow them, or you're texting them. Like, I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
I've never had this because I'm just like, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What was your experience?
This was like kind of recent. No, it wasn't that recent, but it was like in my like recent relationship where I, like how she said I had my ex on social media, and like we would swipe up on each other's stories, but it was never something so like oh, we're like this, you know? It's like we were cool, you know. We talked about the breakup like maybe like a year after and stuff, and we were just like, you know what, like we're just gonna be cool. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And this was before my relationship. And then come to find out, they figure out that we're like following each other, and then she's like, oh, like you're following her, like, you know, or like her name will pop up and she sees that and she's like, oh, like why are you guys still following? And I was like, well, it's not that big of a deal, like it's just social media, like I'll like her picture, she likes mine, like there's never even comments, like I'll swipe up shoes and she's like, oh, those are nice shoes. Like it's literally basic stuff, but she took it like that's your ex and this and that. So it was really hard for me to try and understand, like, because it didn't mean anything to me, you know. So it's really hard. It's like, why do you care? Like I'm with you now, so that's what you should be focusing on. But I eventually was like, okay, if it really means that much, like I'll just unfollow and this and that. So
that I think, like, I feel like this is like a case by case basis, and I think it kind of even depends on like the ex, you know. Like if I'm talking to somebody I dated in high school now, you know, like I don't think my partner would care. And I think like, so it matters like the extent, like say you were like, if I was supposed to marry somebody, you know, and like
that's
those kind of things, and like so it's case by case, but I think it's like talking about at the beginning of the relationship. Like in your example, it sounds like you were already dating and like you didn't think about it, so it found out in the relationship, but like you weren't really hiding anything, it just didn't cross your mind. So it's hard to do that. And like, but I had the similar experience where I was talking to an ex and like I didn't think it was a big deal, but the person did. And I like fought it on like principle of like, what the heck's the big deal, you know, like we don't even live near each other, you know, all these kind of things. But then, you know, now knowing what I know, it's kind of like who am I in the relationship with, you know, and like finding the right, like making it amicable for, you know, both parties or whatever. But so that one, I think it's again though, like expressing our needs, expressing our feelings, expressing like, you know, because it's usually like it makes me jealous, it makes me insecure, it makes me something. So to be able to say that to my partner and then come up with like, what's our plan, or like, you know, I don't know what the, like, social media wasn't really part of my experience. And also because as soon as I end it, I like cut everything off. So I don't like, because I don't want to see it, I don't want to do anything. But yeah, that one's a hard one too. We got 4 hard ones. How many is left?
I have 2 more.
Same.
Okay, so I feel like this was my example, but I feel like we already went through this.
Okay.
So I said boundaries, and then the 2 examples are when to step in with family/friends, or 2, me time versus together, and like something what she had said earlier, like when they're like needy, but you're like, no, not right now.
Yeah.
So that's what I meant. Like, when is too much time that we spend? Like, when is it too much? Like, I didn't know how to phrase it, but that's what I meant. Like, when,
like talking about like date nights and like when you're gonna spend time together. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of. Do you think that's a harder conversation to have?
At first, yeah, because it was like I wanted like spend myself, like have me. I was used to being like me alone, like just doing my own thing. But then like I was never really like the lovey-dovey type. So then when I was dating my hubby now, it was just like so weird. Like we would go out and be like, okay, like it would be like every month.
Bye.
Yeah, like literally, it was just like okay. Like I had to learn how to be with somebody else, like personal space, you know.
Yeah.
And that's weird to me because I've never
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's true. Or like I feel like you're like me too, and we're always like on a schedule. So just to kind of be like spontaneous and like just have fun without scheduling our fun in.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's still hard for me, but
Yeah.
it's like I'm learning.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this one is.
Yeah.
It's definitely something I think that is important to talk about, but I feel like it seems like a quicker conversation. Like, how often do you want to see me?
Yeah, literally, that's what it was, and I was over here overthinking it pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I should read another one.
Yeah.
This one says sex life, wants and needs in that aspect.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. So talking about
sex in general.
Like how many partners?
Anything.
Or just like the act itself? Like what's important?
For me, it was everything. Like how many partners, the act, especially like when it was like my first.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was like, okay, how many partners have you had? Have you done this before?
Yeah.
You know, what are your do's and don'ts?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What I think I put it too, and I put like what are the turn-offs and turn-ons? Like, you know.
Yeah.
That was very hard. Like
so you did have these conversations.
I did, obviously.
Oh, wow, props to you.
Yeah.
I had to because it's like it's with somebody else, like, and you know we're both vulnerable.
Yeah.
So like, but it was very hard. I was like shaking. I was like, I was like, what do you want? What don't you want? And like now we can just joke about it.
Yeah. But the experience you learned, I'm sure that like it was just an honest, vulnerable conversation for both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you didn't do what Itzel did?
No. I feel like for me, okay, I'm just so difficult. So like the whole like the partners thing, it's like don't even tell me how many people you've been with because that's going to be another conversation. And then for me, it was really hard for this. What are your turns on and off? Because I just was like, you should just know. But it's like, no, you shouldn't just know because we've never been together. So I think because I was really uncomfortable and awkward with like talking about it.
Yeah.
Because I never even had like the sex talk with my parents. It was like, I should just know like not to do that, you know? So I think that's also, sex was like such a taboo topic. So I think that's why I was so uncomfortable with it. And like now it's easier to talk about because I have like trial and error, you know? But
Yeah, I think that is, because I mean you are being intimate, and so like hopefully though you're having all these other conversations that makes it, by the time you get to that one, it's a little bit easier. But this is like totally, you know, respecting yourself, your boundaries, your body, your priorities, like all of it, you know. But I think what makes it really challenging is this one in particular, like I think all of them, but like it's not modeled, you know, like I mean they might be changing a little more consent stuff in movies and everything, but it's like the typical scene is you meet at a bar, you make eye contact, you start making out, the next scene's in their apartment naked, you know, going at it kind of thing.
They skip over that.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like we all, or I don't know if we all think, but it's just like you think that like that's how like the mind.
I feel like I feel like maybe that's what I thought about. Like they should just know like.
Yeah, because we're still connected. We made eye contact. They read my mind when we made eye contact.
Yeah.
Why do I have to tell them anything of what I want in the relationship or in bed together?
Yeah.
So this is all good stuff. What did you guys hear a lot, or what did you learn from reviewing these scenarios and communicating effectively?
Honesty.
Yeah.
I think was brought up in almost all of them.
Yeah.
I heard honesty and communicating like your wants. Yeah. Because who knows? Your partner may want the same thing, you know?
Yeah, and like, and being able to express like feelings. Like that's really like your honest feelings, whether it's like, I'm really happy, like hug me, or, you know, it makes me insecure when you're dancing with somebody, you know, it's our feelings. It's really about us, not what the other person's doing, you know, and so it's being able to kind of own that. So in the interest of practicing all this is a lot. And do we have any would you like to challenge yourself based on what we've talked about and what kind of came up for you? Is there a challenge you would like to challenge yourself on that we can pitch to our audience to work out if...
I'm just kidding.
Well, or like it can be like maybe you're not like in any of these circumstances, but I think the skill being practiced is like using I statements, you know. So instead of like when you were using the example of like you point out other couples, like, oh, look at how cute, and you know, it's like maybe you're like, I want to be cuter, I want us to be a cute little couple, can we hold hands, you know, like, you know, challenging yourself to use I statements instead of comparing the couple statements.
I was gonna pick one too.
Oh, okay, so
We'll
we
share.
have the same one.
Okay, what is it?
Exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
So it comes down to like communicating insecurity is about the relationship. And I think that's exactly what you were saying, like being able to say, I would want this in our relationship. But it's very hard because it's like, I assume we're doing it, but then we're not. And I'm like, okay, how do I tell them we're not doing what I want? Like, you know?
Yeah.
So I think practicing using I statements, but like slowly and then gradually.
Yeah.
Going, like building up.
Yeah, like start super simple because it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Anytime we do anything new,
So it could be like, I want to hold your hand more.
Yeah.
And then be like, I would want to do this in public.
I want to get married.
yeah. Which, and so then I guess like coupled with that challenge is almost like initiating conversations. You know, some of these examples where when we wanted to take the relationship to the next level, or we've been going on dates, like now what? Are we exclusive? Or, you know, so maybe it's expressing what we really want from this, and not waiting for the other person or assuming like if it is partners with the opposites, so like gender role, you know, just like this is what I want, I'm going to say what I want, I'm going to say how I feel, and if they don't want the same thing, like cool, like I'm not rejected, it's just I empowered myself to initiate the conversation. This one was, I'm nervous.
This was intense.
It was.
Yeah.
It was because
I was guilty of like majority.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah. This communication major, you know, all this is effective communication. I know now we have to freaking practice. It's scary because now it's combining like our insecurity, like our self-worth. It all comes down to self-worth, and like I'm worth saying this. I'm worth being heard. I'm worth like respecting myself, my opinions, you know, and then being able to be okay with what the outcome is, like kind of just responding and not reacting. We didn't really talk about like saying no and like in our assertive communication. So I think part 3 of all this will up the ante a little bit and go to that next level, like maybe saying no and just maybe even like breakups, like now flip the thing. These are all the things we want. But the challenge of like breakups and how do you tell somebody you're not interested, because that can be just as hard. Okay, anyway, this was exciting. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for participating. Thank you for for holding me accountable to like join you on these challenges. A little nervous, but it'll be all good.
Thank you guys for watching our video. This conversation was definitely an inside look at our lives.
Yeah.
And hopefully you guys relate. So if you guys want to continue the conversation, go to our Discord, our Instagram, and our YouTube in the comments down below. So bye.